I've got my review of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. We have a good idea of what to expect in Halo Infinite's campaign. And I have some thoughts on the Uncharted movie trailer. And we announced the winner of the ASUS Tough Dash F15 laptop that Intel Canada sent me to give away. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm so happy that you've joined me here in the Electric Playground. Today's episode is brought to you by the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on, and you can find out all about them at tgs.gg. Today's episode is dedicated to Bruno Ferreira, who said, "A beautiful interpretation of the novel. The scene sacrifice gave room to a deep world full of nuance, detail, and intensity. A profound visual and auditory experience on IMAX." And that was about my Dune review, which got a lot of people talking over the weekend. Many people have seen this movie. It made $40 million at the weekend box office, so it's likely that there is going to be a part 2 announced this week. I love the movie. I gave it a 10 out of 10, but I understand that people had some issues with it for sure, and I think the biggest one is that we don't know for sure that we're getting a sequel, but I think chances are pretty good. It's doing pretty well at the box office. All right, let's get started with your rundown and my review of Guardians of the Galaxy. As I was playing Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, it occurred to me that we are truly living in the golden age of video games based upon superhero properties. This is a very, very cool experience, and it's another game that kind of, just like Batman Arkham did, kind of outlines the value that video games have when you have a world and a bunch of characters that we're already familiar with, but we want to dive deeper into. And there's a lot of incredible work in Guardians of the Galaxy that extends our knowledge of these characters and the galaxy, yes, that is built around them in some really profound and wonderful ways. Now, this is not based on the James Gunn movies, but there are some things that you can pull from the movies and enjoy in the video game, like the costumes and the different characters. I was able to get 3 out of the 5 costumes, which are some of the collectibles that you can find as you navigate your way through this gameplay. There's an interesting risk that's associated with this game in that they put all of the gameplay choices and mechanics around Star-Lord. It's a single-player experience with 5 different characters that you do have control of, but primarily you are always in control of Star-Lord. And what's cool about that is that we really get to know Star-Lord. We get to go back in time and see his relationship with his mom. There's an emotional kind of anchor to this game that I hoped for and didn't know if I really expected it, but it's there. That is one of the best things about this experience, is the writing is so really well intertwined and crafted all the way through. But you only control Star-Lord. You do have the ability to call in real time all of your other teammates in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and each of the characters has a whole host of different abilities and powers and combat techniques that really come into play. And it's almost like you play Star-Lord and you have a set amount of abilities that you can use with your guns, dash moves, and your double jumps, obviously with the rocket boots and stuff like that. And then you've got some special elemental effects that you have associated with your weaponry, which is pretty cool. You can blast out ice and plasma, and you can actually grab characters and pull them towards you. Some pretty interesting things there for sure. But then with the other Guardians, it's almost like you have this other collection of super abilities as well that you choose when to utilize. So you are constantly calling out commands, and you'll have Drax drop in on an enemy, or you'll have Rocket throw a grenade and it'll have an area effect and take out a bunch of bad guys. Or you'll say to Gamora, go in there and slice and dice, and you'll see her air juggling with a mini boss or something like that. But you call in when those things happen. What's weird about that is that the AI of the characters, you might have Drax way off in the distance fighting with some enemies, and then you'll call in Drax to drop in on a particular enemy that you're targeting, which may be far away from where Drax was, but he'll automatically teleport and drop in. So you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, and it pulls you out a little bit because you're seeing characters just manifest and just appear in different places to be utilized strategically with your offensive choices. You overcome that quickly in the game, but it never stops being a little bit of a disconnect. I do like the fact that you're never asked for microtransactions. I don't know if that's going to be patched in later or something down the road, but really this is a self-contained, single-player, very narrative-driven, very story-based experience that pulls a lot from existing lore. You're going to run into lots of different characters that the Guardians of the Galaxy might in their movies or in their comic books. You're going to see lots of connections. You're also going to see a lot of other licensed properties, not just the music, which we all know is a big part of the lore because Star-Lord's got his Walkman and it's filled with all kinds of nostalgic tunes. I've never fought a boss listening to Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy before. But I did in this game, and it was charming and weird. But yeah, you're going to be getting lots of illusions and lots of connection, lots of story threads, and I think this is going to make the diehard fans out there exceedingly happy. And for me, who has been a huge fan of the films, I love both 1 and 2, and I've read some of the more recent Guardians of the Galaxy comic books. I don't know all of the intricate aspects of this franchise and these characters, but this serves as a great conduit to that. It serves as a fantastic entry point, and I believe when video games that aren't tethered to an exact existing piece of media like a movie-based game, but they pull from licensed properties like this one does, and they exist for their own story and for their own interpretation, what they do, in addition to providing another access point for the existing fan base out there, is also kind of work like an encyclopedia, because there's lots of written stuff that you'll pick up along the way. There's a journal that you can write through the pages of with all kinds of illustrations. And it will encourage you to not only go and watch the movies again, but also to read some of the comic books and maybe watch some of the animated stuff that's out there. And I think that that's wonderful, and I think that's another value extension of a great game like this. And I do have to say that the reason why this game is great is maybe not so much that we're getting into a lot of fist fights and gunfights with all kinds of alien creatures and brainwashed bad guys out there, because what you're really contending with in this game is this religious cult that has gone through the galaxy and has infected people and converted them, and it's slowly swallowing the galaxy. And it's quite effective because you can see these otherwise benevolent characters be converted, and they're just sort of consumed by this evil force that is swallowing up everything in its path. And so it really is a galaxy that needs to be protected by these characters. So you get into a lot of the same types of scenarios. There's a lot of repetition with the bad guys. In that way, it kind of evokes a little bit of the feeling that you would get in combat in a Marvel Ultimate Alliance game or something. But you feel like you're a little bit more in charge of the one-to-one character in a Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. In this one, you're going to feel the repetition in the combat for sure. But what elevates this game is the storytelling and the writing and the voice acting. The music is exceptional. Beyond all of the licensed stuff and all of the new music that was crafted for this, there's this great orchestral score in there, and it's emotionally impactful. Like, you really do care about these characters. As we know with the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, this is a group of people that aren't necessarily perfect for each other until they find out that they are. And so there's a lot of bickering, a lot of yelling. This is not a game where you can have another thing on and, you know, pay attention to the nuance and the storytelling that's going on, because there's so much talking all the way through it. There's a lot of repeated phrases, especially when we're in the combat scenarios where, you know, characters are going to be questioning decisions and moments and reinforcing the obvious over and over again from beginning to end. And, you know, you'll notice that right away. And there's a little bit of forgiveness that has to come into play with that. But the key story beats, the cut sequences, the moments that take us from one key dramatic sequence to another, expertly handled. Great lines that actually made me laugh out loud several times throughout the game. I got a little choked up in a couple of key sequences as well. The actors, they have, you know, a sound-alike kind of quality to them. If you're only familiar with the movies and the way that those famous people portrayed these characters in the movies, you're going to hear the echoes of them in this game. But they have their own frequency and their own tone, and it's incredibly valid and worthwhile. I have to commend the actors. I mean, they've done a really, really nice job. They are barking at each other and fighting with each other and arguing with each other for a huge chunk of time, so there is going to be this element of like, guys, will you just get along? And they even hone in on that a little bit, where Star-Lord asks everybody to huddle up, and he tries to give them this big speech, this encouraging speech, so that they can go out and be boosted and play and fight together with more focus and more determination and more drive. And there's some great peril and great jeopardy in here, and there's some huge rifts and beautiful, beautiful worlds to experience as well. I loved how Nowhere was handled. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I played it on the PlayStation 5, and it just looked absolutely stunning. great reflections, great glowing lights, great facial details. You can make out the tears down people's eyes. And every character has to go through a little bit of that as well, because they're reflecting on some of the hardships that allowed them to become these heroes. And in one sequence I noticed, Drax was thinking about his family and the tragedies that he's already experienced, and his eyes kind of went from white to red in this very organic human way, and it was touching, man. Like, I was really appreciative of the artistry that is on full display here of every discipline. The music, the sound design, all of the different audio effects that are in here, the voice acting, the motion capture, all of the details in the environments. It's some really fantastic work. It's not perfect, though. It's not as tuned and polished, and we don't go as effortlessly from a cut sequence into combat. It doesn't flow with the same kind of panache and just effortless style that we might get out of an Insomniac Spider-Man game, but it's not too far away from that. This is also a game that shows you a bunch of different planets and different environments, and you obviously can't skim across. It's not open world. You can't go anywhere that you want to, but there are a lot of diverse types of environments to explore, and lots of critters and creatures and stuff. Some of it feels a little bit like palette swapped, and we're going to see echoes of things that we thought were long gone. We're even going to retraverse to areas that we thought, okay, well, we're never going to see that world again. Yeah, you might see that world again. And there were also a few hitches along the way for me. This is, I played this before the game shipped, so I don't know if there's a day one patch planned. Certainly there's going to be some smoothing and some tweaking, but I had a few gameplay situations where the next sequence just wouldn't trigger, and I had to reload the last checkpoint. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't have any big crashes or anything like that. And there's certainly a lot of visual stimulation and information that's popped up, maybe a little bit too much. You get all of the Marvel mottos that pop up, spectacular, invincible, which was fine. I thought that was cute, but it does, the screen does get a little bit manic, a little bit too much stuff, and then you get the full action renders of the different characters that pop in on the side when you're calling up their different moves. It's a little overwhelming. You get used to it after a couple of hours, and you kind of hone in on the finesse and the details that you need to kind of excel in the combat situations. And the combat is fun, don't get me wrong. It's fun. It's just repetitious, and there are moments where you cycle through a chunk of bad guys. It's sort of like a corridor with lots of exploratory elements in there, but you'll fight a bunch of bad guys, and then you'll go into a new room, and then the same bad guys will all come back, and you gotta fight them again. And there are a couple of times in the game where it's like, okay, can we move it along? Because the great reward, honestly, is the compelling story and all of the twists and turns that it takes, and the flashback bits that we get, and the mind-trippy elements that we get in this. Really, really wonderful stuff.
Tell me what you see!
There's a blue wire and 2 connections, yellow and red, and 1 big green thing.
Don't touch the green thing!
Not a great time to start yelling, dude!
All in all, I think it's a great Guardians of the Galaxy game. I think it's a great game from Eidos Montreal. I would love a sequel to this, but I also would love Marvel to continue on this road with the success that they're having. I enjoyed all of the single-player stuff that I played with Marvel's Avengers. Some similar complaints of maybe a little bit too much repetition. You guys know I love the recent Spider-Man games, but I would love Marvel now to keep dipping into their catalog. I'd love a Black Widow game. I'd love a Black Panther game. I would love a new Captain America game. We know we're getting Wolverine. There's a lot to mine here. I just imagine Eidos Montreal having a different team working on a Fantastic Four game with all of the lessons that they've learned here, But Guardians of the Galaxy, wonderful. If you're already a fan, you're going to love it. If you just like the movies, I think you're going to love it. And if you know very little about this, but you dig superhero games, I think you're really going to appreciate this one too. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The folks over at 343 and Microsoft and the Xbox team dropped the Halo Infinite campaign trailer today. They gave us a good sense of what to expect in Halo Infinite's campaign, which comes out on December 8th, so we don't have that long to wait to jump into a brand new Halo adventure.
It's been 6 months. Where have you been?
It looks very much like classic Halo to me. It's not super hyper detailed. It doesn't look like there's tons and tons of texture detail that sort of makes it look like a totally fresh kind of rebrand or retake on what we've seen in the Halo universe before, but everything does look a lot sharper. You can notice some awesome, great color flourishes and lighting details. Everything just looks a lot more tactile, a lot more solid, and super clean. You know, it looks super slick. It looks really good to me. I mean, it's not taking my breath away. It's not like, oh my God, I've never seen Halo like this before. Because I think one of the ways that this game kind of serves its audience is that it's like how we've imagined Halo to look over the years. You know, like we've always thought that Halo has looked like that. And I think that's part of the needle that the team has had to thread. They couldn't go off too far and make it too much of a reinvention because that hasn't worked out so well for previous Halo experiences. But I think this is going to be a lot of fun to play. They revealed some of the enemies that you're going to be facing, taking out some of the banished installations, and of course we're going to see a lot of familiar bad guys in there. The game's big bad is a brute war chief that we have to take down, but we're also introduced to this mysterious new enemy named the Harbinger, which says that the Forerunner's lies are going to come to an end in the trailer, which, you know, that's what they always do with the Halo games, is they give you like a main force that you have to fight against, and then they reveal some other secret enemy force that you have to contend with as well. And so the action escalates, and it looks like it's going to escalate quite nicely in this one. I love the grappling hook. I've been a big fan of the grappling hook ever since it was first introduced, and it looks like we're going to have a really fun, compelling campaign. Xbox and 343 have been working on this thing forever, and I don't think that they're going to disappoint. I want to know what you guys think, though. Did you like the campaign overview that Microsoft dropped? Are you excited about the campaign? The cool thing about this is that it's going to be added to Game Pass, so if you're already a Game Pass subscriber, you could just download it and start playing. And the multiplayer in Halo Infinite is going to be free to play, which is insane. But a lot of Halo is coming our way, and it looks pretty damn good to me. All right, let's talk a little bit about that Uncharted movie trailer. After a leak that went all over the internet last week, Sony dropped the trailer for Uncharted starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, which I contend they look so similar to each other, it's kind of crazy. You can see that, and they did a little behind-the-scenes video, and they just look, I mean, they look like brothers. I don't know if that's going to be a big reveal in the movie, if they're going to actually be brothers or something. Are they doing a bait and switch? I don't know. It's so weird. There are action bits that you see in this trailer where you can't tell if it's Tom or if it's Mark. The trailer does look like the games, and it looks like they liberally borrowed from whatever game they wanted to put this thing together. We got a little bit of an Uncharted 2 vibe. We got the opening sequence of Uncharted 3 with the plane sequence, a very memorable experience where everybody's falling out of the back of a plane. We're seeing some Spider-Man-esque stunt work from Tom Holland. It's really hard to disassociate Tom Holland from Spider-Man. That's going to be your curse, buddy. But it does look like the game. I think Ruben Fleischer was the right choice for the director. He has done some really fun work with the Zombieland movies, and clearly everybody that's involved here is paying great homage to the video games. I was a little bit kind of confused, though, why they didn't use the Uncharted theme music, which I think is some of the strongest music in all of video games and would have really cemented that these exist, you know, side by side. They're not trying to kind of reinvent everything here. They're obviously using the source, all of these great action beats and great action ideas that Naughty Dog has put into the games, and said, yeah, these are already cinematic. Let's use those as kind of like our storyboards or our previs, and then we'll make them on film. The movie comes out on February 18th, and I'll be there for sure. I can't wait to review it. I hope it does the games justice. I'm not totally convinced about the, casting here. I'm hoping for a Troy Baker and especially a Nolan North cameo, at least in this movie. And I definitely want to hear that theme music. I'm excited. You know, I've got my reservations and my hesitations, but I am excited. I can't wait to see Uncharted on the big screen. What about you guys? Let me know in the comments below. All right, just a couple quick things to tell you about here. Another big trailer that dropped recently is the Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the Definitive Edition, which bundles Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas into a collection for pretty much every platform out there, including the Nintendo Switch. There's been a lot of backlash about the trailer, saying that I saw one comment that said that this looks like a Roblox game, which is, I think, a little bit nasty. We are talking about games that came out 20 years ago. They came out a long-ass time ago on the PlayStation 2, and they were trend-setting and groundbreaking and honestly changed everything in the video game industry after Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. They had janky hands and things like that, but they still were magical experiences filled with incredible acting and music and lots of insane activities to jump into. We're talking about hundreds of hours of gameplay here. Yes, they look old and dated, but I think that people that jump in are still going to have a blast of a time. I can't wait to try these games again. But I also understand the criticisms. These aren't remakes. It's the definitive edition remaster of those classic games, and they come out next month. I'm definitely going to be diving in. And finally, one last thing. Intel Canada sent me out an ASUS TUF-F15 gaming laptop to check out, to stream off of, so I could show off what the laptop is capable of and play some pretty cool games like Cyberpunk and Alan Wake Remastered. I even played an indie classic with Chicory, The Colorful Tale, which was a total blast. Thank you for joining me on our streams, by the way, at twitch.tv/EPN. And after I was done kind of showing off this laptop, I was able to give it away. So I put a contest together on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Electric Playground. I asked everybody to give me the game that they were going to play first if they won this laptop, and I was blown away by the creativity in the responses. I got a lot of people mentioning classic games like Command & Conquer and Doom and Diablo 2 and World of Warcraft. Lots of people said Crysis, of course, and lots of people also said Cyberpunk, of course. And there were also lots of altruistic entries in there as well. Lots of parents and wives and siblings and aunts and uncles that were going to take this laptop and give it away to someone else that deserved it, which is so freaking kind and so cool. But there were a bunch of different entries like that, and I couldn't choose from one of those. They were all so good. But you guys are amazing. I also got some clever poems and some rap lyrics. And I had people respond that they had never had a PC before and wanted to jump in, and they had old PCs, but they can't handle modern games. But I had to choose one, and I've got that person for you. But there were 4 others that I wanted to highlight because these were also very good as well. Darren Hatt said, I once asked you during a YouTube Let's Play about games you'd play with 1997 Season 1 Victor Lucas. If you could travel back in time to blow his mind, you responded with Red Dead Redemption 2, among other games. That would be my choice. With this laptop, I'd be halfway there. Now, all I need to do is invent time travel. It can't be much harder than getting your hands on a 3000 series GPU in 2021, right? Dean Carl Glover said, Vic, I am going to be honest with you. The first thing I would do with the ASUS TUF-F15 is catch up on the 130 plus papers I have to grade for my classes. What a remastered Crysis, before even thinking about loading up a video game app. I'm working on a Mayan End Time Prophecy 2012 machine that is so friggin' substandard that the ASUS TUF-F15, while not changing my workload, will be a Far Cry 6 from my old lunker. Love the show, been watching since the 90s here in TO. Diener, love that. I thought Jason Tyler Bethune was really good. If I won the laptop, I would put on my cowboy hat, my poncho, and fire up Red Dead Redemption 2. I'd love to get lost in this game yet again, and experiencing it on a laptop would mean I can play it somewhere where I can surround myself with atmosphere and really get into the Old West mood while I play. Anyone got a log cabin I can hide in for a few days? I've always loved that idea of being out in the wilderness and playing video games. I've done that. I've taken an awesome gaming laptop and gone camping and booted it up and been surrounded by nature, and I'm playing as Spider-Man in the thing. It was crazy. I also loved Tom Majewski's answer. He says, I saw an eagle fly away with a pig in Far Cry 4, so probably that, to see how they're doing, which just made me laugh out loud. That's an awesome one, Tom. But the winner of the ASUS F15 gaming laptop, thank you Intel Canada, is a gentleman named Bill Ritzy, who, when I read this comment, I couldn't help but think of Thanos sitting on a rock and having deep thoughts about, and it says, what is a benchmark game?
Am I to buy something taxing on processors and play suboptimally? Am I to fixate on one time-honored classic that only ages, insulting modern machines with the pittance required for a high frame rate? No, there is one edifice of interactivity that has been remastered, updated, and re-released so much that it stands as a timeless waypoint by which to judge any system from the last decade. To bask in the performance of a new laptop, one must fire up Skyrim and bid the outside world goodbye for a day.
Bill, I thought that was very well written, and I concocted a whole story in my head. I also saw Rod Serling maybe reading that as well. But I asked people to be creative, and I thought that was a very creative response. Congratulations to Bill Ritzy. I'm going to wipe the laptop and send it your way. You'll have it very soon. Thank you, everybody, for entering. You guys are awesome. Make sure you follow our Facebook page because it's very easy for me to put contests up there. But thank you for subscribing, and thank you for following our content here and on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EPN. Thank you, of course, to all of our EPN members. You guys all rock. Thank you for your support. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.